Good evening, friends. Welcome to another episode of 10 Minutes with TmFal. Today we're going to talk about persistence and the importance of persistence in achieving our goals and things that we set out for ourselves. So the definition of persistence is a firm or unyielding continuance in a course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition or blocks, right? A firm continuance in a course of action. And if you've read a lot of books on successful people and people who get things accomplished, persistence is a vital part of that process and quality of those people, the ability to persist despite obstacles or opposition and continuing to press on for that. Now, it's important to know that, persistence is really for things that we think are critically important, long-term things a lot of times, and many times for things that are going to be successful, we usually have, obstacles or roadblocks, and the goal is not to allow those roadblocks or obstacles to stop us completely or completely derail us, but to think of them as part of the process of growth, and that many things in life do require persistence and not giving up too soon or too quickly. So, the Serenity Prayer is really important because we want to make sure that we're focusing on things that we can change. So, the Serenity Prayer, which is the courage to change the things we can, the serenity to accept the things we cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. So once we know that this is something that we can change, a process, a goal we want to accomplish, then the goal is to have persistence to be able to go through regardless of the blocks that come up. And I like to give the example of, when we're driving, if you're driving long distance, you're going through a course somewhere, and there is a detour because there's a down power line and a tree blocked the road. Most times we don't assume that, that's the end of that, I just stay there. We start to figure out what is a detour. We'd like to look at there other people who have gone past this, or are you the first person at that downed tree? Are you making calls? Are you trying to look for alternative paths? And whatever process we put in place to get through that, we learn from. So if we realize, yikes, I always need to have my cell phone charged, I need to be able to call someone, I need to be able to navigate, whatever process we put in place, we usually don't let that stop us because we realize that the tree wasn't there just to stop us. It happened. Other people are going to go through it. But I do think sometimes when obstacles come our way, we just assume, it wasn't meant to be, I'm going to stop, and that's it. So in terms of persistence, we know that that's such an important quality to be able to get things done. So we need to have passion, that's great. You need to have a purpose, but we also need to have persistence, that third P, to keep it going. Because with our purpose defined, we have the passion for it. Sometimes life throws tons of obstacles our way. And if we're not persistent to be able to press on, we're going to kind of abort. And when we do that, we're really shortchanging ourselves on the long run. And if you look at life things, so when we talk about goals and dreams and things we want to achieve, we talk about financial health and things we want to achieve in the long term, personal goals we set, health goals we set, things we set for our children and things we want to measure, that those things usually require persistence. And with our kids, we never give up on them. We persist. We help them get through obstacles. But when it comes to our own personal health and finances and goals and dreams, sometimes the blocks come and we just kind of let it go. So what are some of the reasons why we quit when things happen? These are 5 things I see quite often about why sometimes we quit. One is we don't think it's important. So this is something we've set out to do. The obstacle comes, the opposition comes, and then we say, it's not so important. Maybe it's not so important for me to eat right and lose that weight. Maybe it's not so important for me to save that much for retirement. Maybe it's not so important for me to want to achieve this goal in 5 years or in 10 years. So one is we decide it's not that important. The second is we figure out, well, this only happened to us, so it clearly wasn't meant to be. So when you start to set up something and opposition comes and barriers come and obstacles come our way, instead of thinking of it as a tree that fell because of a storm and we just happen to be the first there and other people will be at that point, we kind of think of that obstacle as just there for us, and so that meant we're not meant to do that. And that's not a good way to think through things, because when obstacles show up for things in our children's lives, we usually roll up our sleeves and get past it. We usually don't stop. So for ourselves, we really need to know that obstacles happen, they're part of life. And that's not a sign that we should stop. It's a sign that we need to maybe slow down, reset, rethink our strategies, gather some coping skills, get some help, but it's not a stop. And that's really important, that this will happen. It's part of life. It's happening to others. And what that also teaches us is that when we do succeed at that goal, that when we're sharing with other people, that we share those barriers and obstacles too, so that others coming along on their path may know and will know that obstacles happen, but you go through them and you don't let that stop you. The third thing why we quit, we say, we'll go back later. For now, I'm going to stop, and, in 5 years when I'm not so crazy and things are better, I'll go back and set that goal again. Well, life happens, and sometimes we don't go back, and there's never really a good time, because 5 years from now, there'll be a different set of obstacles. So if you're trying to do a financial goal, a personal goal, a health goal, something with your setup, then just going through it is going to be important, because there's never going to be a perfect time. And that going back later in a year or 2 years or 5 years may never happen. So that's not a good enough reason. 4 is we don't think we deserve it. So when it's our personal financial health goal to run a marathon, whatever it is that we've set out for, sometimes we don't think we deserve it. And that's why the first or 2 obstacles that come, we quit. We abort, we're done. Because deep down, maybe we don't think we deserve it. And we think we should always just be taking care of other people. And, how audacious it is to set such large goals. And so if we don't believe in those goals, and we don't think we deserve to set them and accomplish and achieve those goals, then barriers and obstacles do stop us. And the last part, the 5th one, I think, is we compare ourselves to others. So when you set your goal and you stay on it and you're persistent, you're staying in your lane, all right? You're really not comparing yourself to other people. Your comparison is yourself the day before. So if you make yourself the comparison and you're looking to get better every day and grow every day and become a better you, not a better anybody else, a better you every day, then you're less likely to give up on your goals. You're more likely to stay persistent. You're looking at examples from yoga and Pilates where your flexibility and your range is measured against what it was the last time you practiced. So again, not comparing ourselves to others allows us to stay persistent on our course despite obstacles, because we're not looking at anybody else's growth trajectory, we're looking at ours. So you need to fight for yourself. Don't quit. Stay focused on your goals. They're your goals, they're your dreams, they're things you've set out. We don't want to quit because it's not important to us, or it's not meant to be, or we'll go back later, or we don't deserve it, or others are doing better. Stay the course and do it. And I'll end with a very quick example of something that I feel very proud of, a persistence around something I do at work. So hepatitis C treatments, new treatments were available in late 2014 that cured hepatitis C. without using some of the older toxic regimens. So these new directly active antivirals, DAAs, were approved in late 2014, new ones in early 2015. And in our state of Illinois, there were restrictions on who could get them. Medicaid put restrictions on who could get them. And we fought that fight for 4.5 years to get it approved for people with all stages of liver disease. There were obstacles. There were state laws that didn't allow us to prescribe these medications to people unless they had severe disease. We wrote letters. We met with Medicaid directors. We talked at Springfield. We wrote op-eds. We had patients sign petitions. We did a lot of things from 2014, early 2015, until January of 2019, when all those restrictions were removed. We had legal people involved. We had media. We had a lot of things. But that was the course of being persistent. The goal was to make sure that everyone that we saw in our clinics who had hepatitis C had access to treatment regardless of the insurance coverage. We saw a lot of Medicaid patients were at practice, and the disparity and the unfairness in those restrictions was something that a group of us were really, really upset about and were made sure had to be removed. And it took us years. It was a lot of persistence, just never giving up regardless of the obstacles. And in 2019, January, those restrictions were removed, and anybody in the state of Illinois with hepatitis C could now get access to treatments that cured the virus more than 98% of the time. So this is something, an example I'm very proud of in my work life. And I'm sure we'll have examples of things where we persisted. So my dear friends, never give up. Fight for your dreams. Fight for yourself. Stay focused. Get help if you need. But do not let obstacles stop you from achieving your goals and dreams. Persistence, the ability to continue to press on in a firm course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of 10 Minutes with TmFal. Thank you.